I'd like to introduce a very important individual in our audience, and I would dare say he's become a dear friend of mine. We've partnered a few times already, and we'll continue to partner. I'd like to introduce Mr. Glenn Roberts from the U.S. Department of Commerce.
Thank you very much for having me here today. And more importantly, I'd like to thank my partners, Israel, Terry Hicks from Bakersfield and Kern County, and also Linda Hendy here from the Atascadero Chamber of Commerce. And without them, we wouldn't be able to, the federal government wouldn't be able to get the services and the programs out to you. And it's more important for us to reach you because we're supposed to be helping you folks do business. And then our agency specifically works in the export promotion side of things. We have quite a few offices overseas. Imagine at every embassy and consulate that our U.S. government has, I have colleagues that I communicate with on a daily basis. We have quite a few offices here in the United States. I direct 2 offices, one in Bakersfield and one in Fresno. San Luis Obispo County and parts of Santa Barbara County and Monterey County are some of the territories that I have to cover here in California. We primarily help out with counseling, and we also provide other types of services. But if you can walk away today with something to keep in mind, a lot of my clients find that I'm a resource or a gatekeeper, if you will, to other types of government programs that are out there. So if we can find a way to bridge a gap in your business or to provide assistance, and if it's not from my agency, I'll be glad to see if I know another department or another agency. A little tip to walk away with as well. If you're not getting the communications from a federal agency, but don't talk to me about the IRS or anything like that, but any other type of agency that you need help with, get a hold of me. A lot of times I can write them an internal communication and see if we can get them to respond. So these are some of the things that I do for my clients here in the central part of California on a daily basis. We begin, and I begin just about every time I meet a new company and try to assess where they are and where they want to go. And to do that, I really need to listen to what your needs are and where you want to go. I have my own opinions, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's more important for me to help you, so I need to do a lot of listening before I can even tell you where to do or where to go or how to get it. But a lot of times, companies want to go real fast and they ask for specific information, I'll give it to them. But if you're wanting to develop a strategy and then eventually implement that strategy, well then I just need to sit down with you and understand what you're going through and what you're trying to accomplish. Trade counseling, business matchmaking, commercial diplomacy, market intelligence. These are the things that we provide on a daily basis. But I spend about 80% of my time with trade counseling. And it's the years of experience working in international trade that I am able to provide a lot of the trade counseling that's necessary for you folks to be successful. The market intelligence begins with understanding your marketplace. Today we're going to hear about a marketplace. And in fact, this report that's referenced on the screen here is what we call a country commercial guide. So how many of you have received an inquiry from overseas and you really don't know much about that country? Yeah. So the first thing you can do now is go to our website and utilize this country commercial guide, and you'll understand quite a bit about their country that they're inquiring from. And it's a simple registration process. Allows you into the market research library and also to access these country commercial guides. We're going to have to work with some legal and regulatory issues exporting wine. Okay? Each country is different. Today we're going to get a good briefing from our USDA, American Agricultural Trading Office, and they're going to help us with some of those regulatory issues. Each country has different types of regulations. And so what are they? Well, to find that out, we would go through our embassies or consulates, and I'll help you make those communications. And I prefer to have everybody on the same page, so I usually copy in everybody that is associated with the endeavor, so we can all understand what the answers are and how we can put that together and then export our products successfully. I have to say, and you're going to hear from some experts today about the documentation. And there's quite a bit of documentation involved. But what's more importantly, is we need to go away with here, is that the documentation is something that we can learn, and we just need to know which forms, which documents are necessary to have a proper export and a successful export. We're continually helping companies, and if you understand how we're measured on our performance within the federal government, in our agency, I'm measured on your success. I get measured on my clients' exporting endeavors. Not just how many exports they do, but all new exports. So I am motivated to help you folks to export. And that's how we get some of these testimonies, is because we are out there helping companies export. And there's quite a few numbers that we have to do every year, though. And I couldn't do it without my partners, too. So thank you very much there. A lot of times, I get people asking me, listen, I want to work with this company, but I just don't know anything about them. I don't know what kind of reputation they have in the market. Are they going to treat my product, or are they going to rip me off? And so we do have a background report. We call it an international company profile. And all these good things are listed on our website at export.gov. However, the international company profiles are something that we use on a regular basis. Okay. Working with some of the agricultural products in the Central Valley, for example, almonds, we were able to determine if one of the almond growers wanted to go directly to the end buyer or to a distributor overseas and bypass the brokers within California, we were able to find, come on in, come on, it's all right, we're all here. So we used the trade data analysis to understand how much product is moving out of the state of California, and specifically we can get to the data that tells us what is the cost of the product. In other words, what's it being sold? And there's a mark in there where it's positioned at the ports and for export. And then from that data, we are able to help the almond growers in the valley obtain a higher price, because the data showed us that the brokers are selling it at this price. And this is all data that's captured on all that documentation that you're going to have to do for your exports. Now I want you to be able to use the same data to help your business grow smarter. We take a lot of companies to the markets, to international markets, for the very first time. I need to work with partners like Terry in Israel to help us find companies that have the right types of products, and to help their companies position themselves so they can start exporting. About 25% of my goals for the year actually end up being companies who have exported for the first time. So if you're here today and you think, well, I'm just too small, nobody's really going to help me out, we're here to help. And we do that on a regular basis. One of the best tips that I can ever provide a company is to actually go to some of these shows that we have identified where international buyers attend. We have a program, it's called an International Buyer Program. And the trade shows actually help us out and bring us these opportunities here on our soil. You may have to travel to the East Coast, or perhaps the show may be here in Los Angeles or San Francisco or here on the West Coast, but at least we know that the buyers are going to be there. And so we'd like to get you there as well. Our matchmaking. During these shows, we offer matchmaking. We did it just last week with the World Ag Expo. And we're able to identify the buyers coming in ahead of time, find out what their desires are, what the wish list is, what they want to procure, and then try to match them up with the U.S. companies that have the products. So imagine us having an understanding of different marketplaces that want your wine or products, and then we're able to bring those potential buyers to the table. We have different ways of doing it. Trade shows. We have a service called a gold key service. So if you did not want to wait for a show, you can certainly go straight to what we call our gold key service. It's a matchmaking service. About $700 for each marketplace. They bring about 3 to 5 qualified, vetted potential buyers or distributors for your products to the table. They make the appointments for you. That's what our embassy personnel, our consulate personnel do for us on a regular basis. And so I think it's one of the most direct ways and one of the most focused ways of getting your products into another marketplace. Trade missions. I just recently recruited a major renewable energy trade mission. I have to work across all different industry sectors. And we had a trade mission that went into Turkey, and it was led by the Assistant Secretary of Commerce, so that's like number 3. And we've had 16 companies, and so far we have close to about $1.2 billion in export sales that are going to happen. So it's a growing industry. California is known around the globe for some of the renewable energy technologies, but not all the companies came from California, so I recruited across the the events like this one, some ways to get everybody together. From this event, we would like to go into another event that we actually bring the qualified distributors and importers for your products. We can do this through a variety of ways. Our intentions would be to utilize the same sort of format here, which you're going to see today. But also, like on the beginning of March, we have a food expo in Fresno, the Central Valley, and here, the Central Coast. We have a lot of fresh foods. Yet when we process those foods and put them into packaging, that's where it kind of separates between the U.S. Department of Commerce and the U.S. Department of Ag. So once it gets into a package, then it kind of falls into our lap a little bit. Right? And so I try to promote these companies overseas because they employ a lot of people. And they're great products. And there's nothing better to go traveling around the globe and see a product from your home state or your home county sometimes, you know. So recently, my wife and I traveled into Germany on a different program. It's called Sister Cities. Each city sometimes has these relationships overseas, so we took advantage of the one in Fresno that took us to Munster, Germany. With that effort, we're able to bring back a qualified distributor that's coming to Fresno for this show to buy product. And so we have somebody here today, Nick. I met him last year at the food show, and hopefully the importer will take a look at him. And we also have, if anybody wants to understand what the Sister Cities program is about, we have Lisa Murray here in the audience. So just ask me and I will introduce you to her. Or you can raise up your hand, Lisa. There she is. Okay. One of the last things that we actually do that's pretty well for companies, it's like really rolling out the red carpet, besides a trade mission, is also your company promotions. Now imagine trying to set up your wine to be distributed across a major market, and you're able to invite several different importers to one event, and it's at the, let me see. Imagine having the reception, the promotion at the residence of the ambassador. And that holds a lot of prestige for us. And your buyers, your distributors overseas also think it's a very prestigious event to be able to walk into the residence of an ambassador and then be able to host a promotional event like this. So keep those things in mind, and then it just starts with a phone call with me and any of our other colleagues across the country, and we'll be able to help you out. And the one of the most another important fact that, and hopefully a tip that you can walk away with, is that if you understand my philosophy in working, I answer the phone. If I don't pick up the phone, and it'll go to voicemail, but I'm there to pick up the phone. I'm so shocked that how many times I get a call from other parts of the country like, well, you're the only guy that picked up the phone. So I have a philosophy, and I think that is because in Central California, I'm expecting your calls, so I want to talk to you, and please, just pick up the phone and call. Okay, one last thing. In this presentation, I have quite a few hyperlinks, and if you wish to have a copy of it to help you out, make it convenient, just write to me, and then just mention this event in the subject line, and I'll get it to you. And again, I'd like to thank Linda, Israel, and also Terry for being such good partners for us with the commercial service. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Glenn. Don't get off just yet. One of the things for some of you who came in late, I want to make a few points, but what real key thing here is this is the first part of a two-part event. Right now, we're just giving you the overview of exporting, the logistics, the documentation, how to ensure that you get paid. We're going to have a gentleman speaking about some insurance to insure on your receivables. But Glenn, elaborate a little bit more on our next event. In other words, if you're out there in the audience and you're interested in exporting, we're going to have a virtual wine matchmaking event. We're going to ship product internationally, okay? We'll have a webinar. You can talk about your wine, your appellation. We'll have buyers on the other end, and you can negotiate a sale. We're going to introduce you to buyers. That's awesome. Glenn, why don't you elaborate a little bit more, please?
Yeah, remember the Gold Key service that I referred to, where we find those qualified buyers and bring them to the table, set those appointments? With the Gold Key service, you have to fly in the country and actually meet the folks. What we're intending to do with this event is to actually get the product over, like Israel stated, and invite the potential qualified buyers and distributors into the embassy. The first thing that we have to do is to organize the event and the Gold Key services. We call them, internally we call it a virtual Gold Key, where we're going to set the matchmaking up. So each winery will have an opportunity to meet their types of distributors. Now, it takes maybe about 4 to 6 weeks to set it up, because we have to convey what you're offering. How's it to do business with you? How are we going to, and what type of wines, and so we find the right type of distributor. So it's your criteria for a distributor. Now, like you're going to see today, we're going to turn on the video conferencing equipment, save you an airfare going over there, and now we can be able to do a wine tasting with your potential distributors privately, you and them. Okay? So after this event, we're going to get a feeling about who's ready to do this sort of thing, and so we can do a virtual Gold Key service, thus saving you folks a lot of time getting in an airplane. But at least if you did get in an airplane and dropped into, for example, Hong Kong, well then, yeah, you'll have your appointments. But if we can do it from here and save that cost so you can tend to your vineyards, well then I think that's one of the best type of resources we can do today. You're going to learn from others today how to help mitigate risks and such things like this. But more importantly, we're going to show you how we can bring buyers right here into Atascadero. Thanks.
Great, thank you, thank you. For those of you who showed up a little bit late from the start of our event, welcome. Thank you for coming. And also, I will remind again a few times throughout this event, in your folder that you received, there's an event questionnaire. It's really important that you fill that out. One, we certainly want to have you rate this event, how it went, but there's some information that's very key to us. particularly how many employees you have and your average sales. You can just guesstimate if you don't know off the top of your head, because for those of you who are interested, and moving on to the next event, the virtual wine matchmaking event, we ask for your information, we'll need that, and we'll be contacting you. The reason we want to know the average monthly sales is because if we start working with you, we want to monitor your progress and increase in sales. And for those of you who arrived late, I'm the director of the Business Entrepreneurship Center at Cuesta College, and my role is to provide advanced consulting services to business and industry. And in that is providing support services to increase sales, increase expansion into new markets. So we're here to facilitate that, and basically we want to determine a baseline where you're at in sales and help you become more profitable and increase wealth. Okay, it's really that simple. Okay, any other comments?
No, to me, it's always much nicer to work with service organizations such as ourselves, but to understand that they're really based upon performance and not how many, grant funds they can raise or something like this, but it's our performance that helps keep these services coming to you. And you'll find out once you start working with our organization, with the commercial service, you will find that it's kind of like one of the best known secrets that the federal government has to offer to give back to you. And I personally can't do my job without my partners here. So again, I thank you all for helping us out and putting on these events.
Great, welcome. All right, next we'll keep on track. And I want to invite our next guest, Mr. Paul Watts. He's from the Export-Import Bank of the United States. He's a very experienced and knowledgeable man, and I think you'll find him quite knowledgeable and entertaining as well. Paul, give it a hand for Mr. Paul Watts.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Paul Watts. I'm with an independent agency of the United States government called Export-Import Bank of the United States. How many of you have heard of us and think you know what we do? I guess that's a two-part question. How many of you have heard of us? How many of those people you think you know what we do? Okay. We are an independent agency founded in 1934. Been around a little while. 50, 60, 70 years ago, we were a bank. We worked with imports and exports. There's our name. We've morphed into what we are today, or what we're not. We're not a bank. We have nothing to do with imports. We are the Export Credit Assistance Agency for small businesses, American businesses, and we want to assist you and provide protection to you so that you will export more of your product and you will get paid for your exports and you won't incur losses. That's what we do. I will, my job's easy in that we only do two things. We assist with financing, and we also provide assistance in the way of insurance. Since this is a Wine Exports Symposium, I'm going to go right over past the financing and get into what the product is that can help you as wine exporters. It's called credit risk insurance, export credit risk insurance. It allows you to have the world's biggest gorilla watching your back. That's the United States government. We provide a policy, an insurance policy, several policies depending upon the product, your experience, your volume of exports, how long you have been exporting in business, etc. And it's nice to follow up the Commercial Services Department of Commerce because it allows me to segue into what we do. In your packets, there are 4 pages that I had placed in there. The first page is titled at the top, At a Glance. This page just tells, basically what we do, who we are. And that's, we provide assistance in financing and provide credit risk insurance. Our mission is all about jobs. That's the buzzword in the Beltway, but our mandate has been to increase jobs for 40, 50 years. And Johnny-come-latelys now, we say, where have you been all our lives? Because more than 85% of the jobs in the United States are with small businesses. That's why anybody you see from Ex-Im Bank, as we're known, it's not housed in Washington, D.C. They are the small business division, like myself. We have 5 regions. I'm in the Western region, the office in San Francisco. And I deal exclusively with providing assistance to small businesses. The specialty of wine exports, I kind of slipped into, become known as the Ex-Im's Wino. I recently moved up to Napa and got involved with providing, introducing wineries, small wineries, to credit risk insurance, and it's taken off. Right, I mean, I've seen 20, 30, 40 small wineries that have really taken advantage of this program. The next flyer, and these are to take home and review at your leisure, the 2 key tools to expand your sales into new international markets. This is what shows our partnership with a sister agency, Department of Commerce. On the left, it talks about the Gold Key service that Glenn mentioned. Excellent opportunity for you if you're thinking about getting into exporting, or maybe you are exporting and you've decided on a country, but you don't want to just go over there and waste your time. Gold Key service is great. It's very inexpensive, a lot of bang for the buck. Let the government, commercial services, let them do the due diligence and check out buyers and find distributors for you. And then you've already got people that you can talk to and decide if you want to do business with them. If you're new to exporting, the next agency that Glenn would pass you off to is my agency, because we can protect you. When you sell something and export it, as soon as it leaves the shores of the good old USA, it becomes a foreign receivable. And our insurance provides coverage and mitigates the risk of you not getting paid. Basically, 3 risks are covered. The first one is called protracted default. That's a fancy way of saying you get stiffed. Anybody in business understands what that means. You don't get paid. Maybe you sent your wine, it's in China. I'll give you an example, a specific example. A winery up in Napa Valley sold 2 containers of wine, and that was about $40,000 each container. This is a couple years ago. They sold it to a restaurateur in China who had restaurants in Shanghai, Guangzhou, I think Beijing. And they required 60-day open account credit terms. And okay, they went with it, crossed their fingers. Well, the restaurateur paid them off in 60 days. They were happy. A couple months later, same buyer called up and said, yeah, we'd like 3 containers. And they, oh, we got it made. We're exporters. 60-day terms. Fine. He paid them. Now they've got a good account. They're really happy. They're They're into exporting. A couple months later, they get a phone call. We want 4 containers of the premium wine. Came about $250,000. They shipped it, never heard from it. It got stiffed. They lost their $250,000. I found out about that from the Wine Institute. Went up and talked to them. They ended up buying this insurance that is cheap. Premiums are, I've been chastised for using that descriptive term. I get away with it. The premiums are cheap. Typically, you can, for example, 60-day open account terms, common would be 55 cents per $100. If it's, keep the numbers round, 4 containers for $100,000 cost you $550 to insure that. If you get stiffed, or the second risk, they go bankrupt or become insolvent, you don't get your money. Or the third risk, there's a political risk. If something happens in the country that you're shipping to, where the buyer is, a political problem that causes you not to get paid, you're covered. That's unique to the government's insurance. Last year, maybe somebody heard my expression. There's an old dirty joke about why does a dog do what he does? Because he can. Why does the government offer political risk coverage? Because we can. We're the U.S. government. Any of those 3 risks, you don't get your money, you file your claim, and we'll pay you up to 95% of your insured receivable. $100,000 receivable, you don't get paid, one of those 3 reasons. You file your claim, we pay you $95,000. Cost you $550. Pretty good program. We have a new program in the last 6 to 8 months, Express Insurance. That's for the newbie, the new exporter. You're not experienced in exporting. So we've got a new kind of policy called the Express Insurance. That's the page in here. You don't have to have the normal 3 years in business and 1 year experience in exporting for the rest of the policies. This policy allows you, you've been in business 1 year, and if you've got a deal, a purchase order, you can get this policy. You're just starting out, you get this policy. It doesn't cost anything. You only pay a premium when you use the policies. If you don't ship something, it's marketed as pay-as-you-go, but it's actually pay after you went. You fill out a form every month. Here's who I shipped to last month. Add up the dollar amount, divide it by 100 if it's to a private buyer, private company. Divide it by 100, multiply it by one policy, 55 cents. There's your premium. Send it in. If you didn't ship anything, you don't pay anything. It's just for a small business, it's fabulous. The protection that you've got, it lets you sleep well at night. It allows you to offer open account credit terms. Pacific Rim countries are demanding open account credit terms because they have more dollars than we do in the United States, and they flex their muscles. Countries in the Middle East, it's a matter of respect. Why aren't you giving me open account credit terms? You don't respect me? And this allows you to provide that accounting repayment basis, and it protects you, lets you sleep well on the weekends and until you get your money. The last flyer, the last flyer is titled Export Credit Insurance. And this one, both sides, goes into further details as to what export credit insurance is, how you might be able to utilize it. But just remember, it's a way of protecting you. It's a way of allowing you to be competitive by offering credit terms. And it also allows you to think in a broader international perspective by going into countries that maybe without our watching your back, you're going to say, whoa, we're not going to ship to there. They just had a revolution. Or like, I'm not going to pick on Thailand, but Thailand's had 3 changes of government in the last 5 years. Well, maybe your buyers, there's a coup and your buyer's on the wrong side. Well, that's a political risk, and we'll pay you. And then the U.S. government goes and collects. We do collect. I'll leave you with, our agency is one of only 2 independent agencies of the United States government that's what's called self-sustaining. Means we are the ultimate oxymoron. We're profitable. We make money. Not one dime of taxpayers' money goes into the operations, pays claims, anything to do with our budget. We're proud of that. The other agency is OPIC, Overseas Private Investment Corporation. But we're the only 2 agencies that were profitable. You're not paying for it. We're paying our own way from fees, primarily from fees we get for the big companies, the Boeings, Caterpillar, John Deere, Westinghouse, General Electric. Everything they export, we are all over it like white on rice. They pay dearly. That allows the fees we make from the big boys allows us to supplement and support being a loss leader, but we're helping the small businesses. Same guarantees, same insurance, but you get it cheaply. That's what we do. That's how it applies to the wine industry. Any further questions, any interest, want to get into details, catch me at the networking a little later on. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. My card's been passed out. If something pops up later on next week or the week after, give me a call. I might be on the road like I am today. I was last week and I will be next week. But I do return the calls. I check my messages 2 or 3 times a day, if not more, and I return the calls.
Great, thank you very much. On schedule. I want to introduce a friend of mine and a colleague and one that I partner with, Mr. Phil Koziel. I invited him to attend this event. He works with Coast Hills Federal Credit Union, and I want to give him a few minutes of opportunity to discuss some SBA loans specifically for exporting. Phil?
Well, I want to thank Israel for giving me the opportunity to sit down and talk with you. One of the things most people don't understand is, we've got some great opportunities for you to export here in our community and grow even bigger. A lot of people don't understand exporting is a great area where you can grow your business and not be totally dependent on the current market and the current market strengths you have. Some of the things most people don't understand is the SBA has a great program that has rolled out and has been promoting and making it better than it was the last 3 years. The biggest problem was in the last 3 years, the government, the SBA program, didn't understand what the exporters needed, what small businesses needed to make this successful. But what they have done is they've actually revamped it a little bit and created a nice, good program. You're going to be looking for opportunities for how do I fund my export? How do I fund a container? How do I fund the shipping, the cars, the automobiles, the things that I'm going to need? If my business takes off, my exports take off, how am I going to fund expansion? The SBA has got a streamlined SBA export program that just works for small businesses, and it works phenomenal. It's up to $500,000 worth of financing. So, I mean, the financing is pretty wide open too. You can go to sba.gov, and here in California, go to the Fresno office, and you can just type in Export Express. What makes a difference? Most people don't understand credit unions are business lenders as well. We're here in the community. We've been here for over 50 years, and we've been lending here to our business community for that time. And we want to keep being that commercial lender to you, as well as a credit union to you, giving that opportunity. So something you want to think about. We are an express lender, so we actually have this program already in place. And we will be actually rolling it out to our vineyards, as well as some of our local manufacturing companies that have need lines of credits. You know, you need export lines of credits. These are things that are very hard to get from banks in the current market service, because no one wants to put that line of credit out there, and knowing that if it happened to go wrong, that line of credit it's gone. It has to be executed. There's no way out. Most exporters, when you do export to other countries, they do ask you have some sort of standby letter of credit, and they want to know where it's coming from and who's backing it. Normally, financial institutions back it with the good faith of their organization. Now we have the SBA that will actually help you in that area as well. You can use this funds up to this $500,000 to build more facilities, automobiles, manufacturing, new bottling lines, new brands. I mean, it's pretty wide open for you. So take an opportunity, look at some of your local financial institution that do SBA Express, and look at the SBA as a great opportunity to get your foothold doors in there and get that lending product and help your business grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. One of the things that I do as the director of the Business Entrepreneurship Center, I partner extensively with a lot of the community banks. Any community bank that you can mention in our area, I partner with, including some of the larger banks. And the way our relationship goes is that a client will come to us and say, I'm thinking about exporting, for example. And I look at their financial statements and present them and position them to be fundable. And I provide a number of services. It could be, in some cases, it might be providing some assistance on a business plan or a strategy for growth. And then we discuss a few items with the lender, in this case, for example, Coast Hills Federal Credit Union, and I want to understand their underwriting criteria. We position the client to be funded. We send them off to the lender to create a win-win situation. Okay, so that's essentially how we work with lenders. So we provide quite a bit of services. All right, the next individual I want to call up, it's from one of our industry experts representing Embassy Wines and also JIB International is Mr. Bob Bruns, and he will spend a little bit of time in giving us quite a bit of information. We've opened up the window for him a little bit more to give us all the details on exporting and what his organization does to export wines to embassies.
Thank you. You guys don't seem very enthusiastic. You must have had hard days today. I'm not from the government, so the other speakers were all government types. And I've got to tell you that we work with all of them. And as a private company, we work with all of these government programs. And I've got to tell you, as a wine distributor, we found all of them to be extremely useful. And I'm going to give you some examples as I go on. But let me tell you a little bit about the companies that I'm representing here. First of all is the Embassy Wine Program, which is a program within Embassy Wine Distributors, which is the company that I have an interest in. What we do is we sell U.S. wines only to only United States diplomatic posts, embassies, consulates, American missions, whatever you want to call them, all 257 of them. They're out all over the world. We don't sell any U.S. wines within the United States. We only sell to U.S. embassies. Now that's a pretty niche market, but the nice thing about it is that it's a twofold thing. First of all, if you sell your wine, first of all, how many of you are wineries? Wine growers, great, okay, good, because I was hoping I was talking to the wineries. So the first thing is that if you produce a nice wine and you have trouble getting it out there, one of the ways to do that is to be in our program, and we will actually send that wine over to the U.S. Embassy that requests it. Now, how do they request it? We have a website. They get on the website, they request a catalog. All of our winery partners are in our catalog. We actually purchase the wine, so we're a true distributor, we're not a broker. So we actually purchase the wine and we resell it to the embassies. What we like to promote is wines that the ambassador would be more than happy to serve his guests at a state dinner. We also sell wines that the U.S. commissaries that various embassies and diplomatic posts would not be afraid to sell to the American personnel over there. And anybody else, any other group or organization that might be related to the embassy. The California Wine Institute, for instance, purchases wine through us at some of the overseas embassies. We also sell wines to the potato board, the agricultural departments, all of these kind of folks, you know. And what we want to do is we want to make sure our goal, our company ethos, is to get U.S. wines into these foreign countries so that the folks overseas at the embassies, the U.S. personnel, get a little taste of home. But we also have a secondary mission, and this is where Mr. Roberts has been instrumental in this. Through the commercial service, the embassy personnel will invite distributors, foreign distributors, in for what we have sold the embassies, or what we are going to attempt to sell the embassies. For instance, we have virtual wine tastings. Now, Glenn brought up the thing about a virtual gold key wine tasting thing, and that's great. It's a wonderful program. Ours is more of a straightforward, if you're one of our winery partners in the Embassy Wine Program, we want you not only to sell to U.S. embassies, because believe me, you'll never get rich off of selling embassy wine stuff, because we're only going to order a case or 2 cases or 10 cases or whatever at a time from you. But the potential is there if you want to sell commercially overseas. We set up a virtual wine tasting. The distributors from that country get invited into the embassy. They sit there, they drink your wine, your wine master or yourselves or whoever is sitting there pouring the wine here in this side. They're doing the tasting on that side with the exact same wines. And if a distributor likes it, they can get in touch with you directly. They don't have to go through us. I mean, we're more than happy to, because let's face it, we're a private company. We want to make money. But we're not going to say, oh, okay, you can only go through us. They can come directly back to you, the winery, and buy directly from you on a commercial basis, because that's not what we do. We will sell commercially, but our job is to sell to all the U.S. diplomatic posts in the world. Very niche, little tiny market. So that's basically what the Embassy Wine Program does. And tomorrow I'm going out wine tasting, because my job, I have the best job in the whole world. My job is to go out and taste wine for this company. So it's a pretty natural thing for me. I love my job. You know, there is no downside to my job. The second thing I'd like to talk to you about. Oh, any questions about the Embassy Wine Program? Or you can come and see me. Yes, sir.
So do you have an exclusive to sell the embassies in?
We do. With some of the wineries want us to have an exclusive. For instance, the branded wines, folks like Chateau Saint Michel and Constellation and Gallo and those folks, we have exclusives to sell to the embassies because they already have overseas distributors that they don't want us to compete with. Yes. But we don't require an exclusive sort of thing to sell to embassies. We're just good at it. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Is there a fee for having the virtual tasting there with them?
There's going to be money out of your pocket, but it's not a fee. It's, we have to send the wine over, and you share the cost of that. That's about it. Making sure that the wine gets over there and so on and so forth. We're a private company, so we supply the glasses, with our nice logo on them and stuff, so you don't have to worry about that part. You can share in the shipping and, of course, the cost of it. Yes, sir?
Can you explain as to who JIB International is?
JIB, I was going to get to that in a second, but I can talk about that now. Or any other questions about MC Wine, as long as I'm up here talking about that? Okay. JIB International is an international freight forwarding company. I also have an interest in that. And we ship wine and spirits all over the world. As a matter of fact, when we part of the things that we do for Embassy Wine is that we sell our wine delivered to the closest port to the embassy. And we turn that over to JIB International, who is our sister company. And JIB International handles all of the documentation, the arrangements, the logistics, picking up the wine, consolidating the wine, shipping it over to the overseas sort of thing. So that's what we do. And I wanted to talk a little bit about JIB International and about the actual physical logistic processes of moving wine. I don't know how many of you are currently exporting. I don't know how many of you want to export. But those of you who are currently exporting know all of the trials and tribulations that you have to go through in order to get the product out of the United States and get it into somewhere else. And those of you who are contemplating exporting need to understand that there is this trial and tribulation that you have to go through. And it's a business of making sure that all of your ducks are in a row, so to speak. First of all, since you're all wineries, you all know what cola is, and we all know about label requirements and all that kind of stuff. You throw that out the window. It only applies if you sell your stuff here in the United States. Stuff that you sell overseas is not the same. The stuff that you sell overseas, you can put any label on it you want. The best thing is to talk to your overseas buyer, the one that's actually going to purchase your product, and find out what the label requirements are in that country. A lot of them require labels to be in the native language. If you're shipping to Japan, for instance, and you already have a label and they like the label, you have to put on a little strip label in Japanese that gives some of the information for the wines. Same thing in China, same thing in Turkey. You have to alter these a bit so that they will pass inspection. If you're selling to China and everybody's going, oh, this is the big market right now, and it is, there's 1 billion people in China. So it's a very, very big market right now. It's also one of the most difficult in terms of paperwork and documentation and analyses and that sort of thing to get into. So a lot of companies say, well, sure, we'd like to ship it to China, and then don't realize how much trouble that they're going to be in if they just put it on a boat and ship it off, or put it on their boat, or so on and so forth. We've had people say, oh, I can ship, these are wineries now, people they're in business. These are wineries saying, oh, I'm going to ship over a case to my buddy over in China there, and he's going to sell all my stuff. Well, it doesn't quite work like that because it'll never get through Chinese customs. Because your buddy doesn't have the authority to bring that wine in. So, there's all of these different rules and regulations in all of these 200 whatever countries that are out there that keep changing them day to day. So there's all of these different rules and regulations in all of these different countries that you have to abide by. And JIB International, the other company that I have, handles that sort of thing. We check out the documentation. We advise, here's what you need or here's what you don't need. This is how much it's going to cost you. Basically, cost of sending wine overseas varies in the amount of wine that you send. The cheapest way to send wine overseas is by ocean and a full container load at a time. 1,000 cases of 750 milliliter claret bottles will fit in a 20-foot container just nice. It'll cost you about, if you're going to send it to China, it'll cost you $2 a case. Send that stuff to China. $2 a case. $2. $2, Chuck? $2 case. Okay? $2 a case to send the stuff to China. The same stuff, if you sell one pallet and go through the consolidation process and put it in with other people's stuff and load it on the vessel and unload it and get it taken care of, $15 to $20 a case. So as you can see, the more you sell, the better off you are. I've always wanted to try and get an appellation, the whole appellation, together and say, hey, listen, you guys, we're selling wine, we want to sell it to China, but we're not very competitive because it's costing us $15 to $20 a case to get our wine over to China. Why don't we get together and say every month we'll put together a container load, we'll get the advantage of the lower price, and we'll still get the stuff over to China. And the buyer in China can receive the benefits from that lower price. So far it hasn't worked out well, but you know, I keep trying, I keep hoping. And that's basically what we do with Jib International. Anybody have any questions about either of these?
There's a gentleman over here, right?
Oh,
Can
yes.
you maybe give a small case study as to why it hasn't worked out well when you're talking about, I guess, sort of consolidating the containers?
I think it's probably more the fact that either they don't have enough sales over there, you know, to fill up a container. We love boutique wineries. We love big wineries. We love production wineries. We love boutique wineries. We love all these kind of wineries. A boutique winery probably can't even sell 1,000 cases of wine in an export market if they are a small production winery, because they allocate it somewhere else. But they could sell 50 cases, and the problem is that they may not sell that 50 cases at the same time their competitor wineries in the same appellation sell 50 cases. So the biggest hang-up has been trying to get them all together at the same time, as well as getting commercial interest from all of the different wineries. So that's a big problem too. Yes?
Bob, do your business operations focus only on the 4 counties that Israel mentioned, or do you get outside those 4 counties as well?
We sell and distribute wines from all 50 states. So we sell Shelby Point Riesling, out of New York State. We sell Chateau Saint Michel. We sell wines from the Paso area. We sell Napa wines, Central Valley wines. We sell wines from all over the U.S. Yes.
Who's responsible for the quality during shipping once it leaves the ports?
Again, that's a very good question. As Jib International, I'll take off my Embassy Wine hat, put on my Jib International hat. As Jib International, what we do is we try to make sure that the wine arrives in the same condition it left. How do you do that? Well, the first thing that you do is you wrap the pallet with an coolant type of insulation. You put it in the container, and then you tell the steamship company to put that container below the water line inside the vessel. Why below the water line? Very constant temperature, about 68 degrees across the whole way. And I don't care if you go down, from here to Australia or from here to Alaska or wherever, the wine stays at a constant temperature. The insulation that we use, the manufacturer has guaranteed us that it won't change 1 degree in 14 days. So, and to kind of give you the whole scenario about this, we've been shipping wine this way for 32 years. We've never had a bad consumer. Not one. Just another thing, that you have to think about, that we want to make sure that your product arrives as nicely as it was when it left. That's not to say we didn't have bad wine when it reached the other side. But just between you and me, that stuff wasn't very good to start with. So they have that whole inherent damage sort of thing going for them. We also insure the wine, so against loss, damage, and that sort of thing. But not inherent damage, because if you make bad wine, it's going to be bad wine when it gets old. I'm sure none of you make bad wine. I'm sure you all make wonderful, wonderful wine. Any other questions? I keep seeing things happening behind me.
Just making a connection to Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
What criteria do you use for the embassy wines, and are you looking for more
We are
wineries?
always looking for wineries to partner with. The biggest difference between us and most distributors, I would say, is the fact that we do a true partnership. Most distributors will put you in their catalog and then forget about you. I don't know how many of you have had experience with, I'm not going to name the distributors, but you get stuck in there and that's it. So we operate a little differently. We have, ambassadors call us up and go, what do you think about this? Or, I want a wine to serve at the state dinner that does this or this. So we will actually say, well, listen, we like this and this and this because it tastes good. We will also have a newsletter where we'll do a monthly, maybe highlight a winery or an appellation or something like that, and that really helps too. So we try to be a partner rather than just a buyer, just a distributor. Yes, sir.
Now you said you take care of all of the shipping from shipping cargo. Afterwards, there's a part where that comes off that ship. How do you guys guarantee from that point to its final destination?
We actually turn it over. We turn over title to the embassy at that port. So, and the embassies just they have various and sundry ways of getting it. So, but it's their responsibility at that point to get it into the embassy grounds themselves. Any other questions? I'll be around for the, I hear there's going to be wine given out at the reception center.
Yeah, we'll entertain more questions during our panel discussion and obviously during the wine and hors d'oeuvre reception, so definitely stick around for that. We're actually doing really good on time. Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. We're synced up to the call for Hong Kong. I give them a couple more minutes and then I got to call in and you'll get to listen in to our guest speakers from Hong Kong. I have a few moments. I'd like to also introduce another gentleman who's our guest, Mr. Steve Arnold. He's with Federal Express, and I want him to speak just for a few moments of what he does in helping companies with logistics and exporting. Come on.
My responsibility has been for the last 6 years only to assist our businesses export or import. 227 countries, there are issues with customs from any one of those. But I got in the wine world when FedEx Ground needed a ground operation up in Santa Rosa, Sonoma County, so I opened up the facility up there and handled all the ground operations from the Golden Gate Bridge up to the Oregon border. But in Santa Rosa, I couldn't handle any wine because domestically there was such a ABC restrictions on shipping wine domestically that I made it part of my mission in life to find a way to be able to ship legally wine clubs, okay? And so FedEx does have a domestic wine shipping program for your visitors who want to join your wine clubs to be able to ship those, okay? We also created 2 years ago an international wine shipping program, again, for your wine clubs when you have international visitors, that you can get what your monthly club shipments are, so that you can make some money and not have to say it's going to be olive oil when we know it's not. It's easier to ship to Hong Kong than it is to Massachusetts, okay? But if you're talking to Hong Kong, I went to the Hong Kong Wine Trade Show 2 years ago. So my business cards out here do say Chinese on the back side because that's the proper international business etiquette to have English on one side and Chinese on the other side. So if you do travel over there, do have your business cards made with language on both sides, okay? It was a great event. I was at the U.S. Commercial Service site with our United States wineries and learned a lot over there. For one, Hong Kong eliminated duties and taxes in June of 2009. 2010, they became the second largest importer of California wines outside of France in 1 full year. That's why FedEx became the California counterpart up north and went over there to find out what's happening over here because it boomed that quickly. And it was a great event. There's no saying that you can't have 10 of you all put together 1 or 2 booths and go over there and market your wine as a co-op and get essential wine sold in Hong Kong. There's no reason why you can't. I saw other people do that. Actually, the Port of Oakland had wines from 6 different wineries so that they could be in the wine pavilion versus the service pavilion. But just as an interesting caveat, because when we were here, they don't buy white wine in Hong Kong. Why? Well, they have small refrigerators. They don't have big refrigerators like we have, so you have to chill the wine. So they start drinking at room temperature. Chardonnay isn't that good at room temperature, okay? So they have a tendency to want to buy red wine, okay? That's just a trivia to that marketplace. But I'm here to help you. I have fingernail files out there. Don't bite your nails over shipping international. You can sell international. You got enough resources here to assist you. The U.S. Commercial Services and FedEx have had an alliance for 6 years. Everybody here can help you. Just don't bite your nails. Have a great event.
Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate that. All right. Give me a few seconds here while we sync up to Hong Kong, and this should go pretty smooth. Hello, Eric. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me?
Great. We're doing wonderful out here in wonderful California. Eric, go ahead and introduce yourself and begin your presentation.
Great, great. Well, I am Eric Buss with the Foreign Agricultural Service, a part of USDA, the Department of Agriculture. I am the director of what we call the Agricultural Trade Office here in Hong Kong. Just to, I guess, by way of background, to give you a little bit about what the Foreign Agricultural Service is and does. Our mission is quite simple. It's to support U.S. agriculture by expanding opportunities for U.S. agricultural products overseas, including, of course, wine. We do that in a number of different ways. Just to kind of give you a brief sampling of what we do. I mean, we provide information to exporters and agricultural interests about the markets in which we're serving. We put out a number of reports, for example, in Hong Kong, probably 50 different reports a year talking about the markets, and in particular, we put out 3 different reports on wine, for example, explaining on one report about the regulations that are out there, another a little bit about the market. So again, one of our jobs is just to provide that basic information about the markets. We also advocate to negotiate policy measures impacting U.S. agriculture. So we go in to host governments and take a look at some of the policies and try to work with the governments on policies that are advantageous for U.S. agriculture. We also market U.S. agricultural products through various promotional efforts, often partnering with industry and sector groups. We work with a number of different wine groups. Many of you are familiar with, perhaps, the Washington and Oregon Wine Commissions, the California Wine Institute, New York Wines, a number of different groups. In general, I think it's probably important to highlight a little bit about the groups we work with. When we talk about the wine industry, it's often a little bit more challenging to work with some of these groups than it is some of the other agricultural groups that we work with. For example, when we talk about our work with the soybean industry, pretty much one soybean sold overseas is beneficial to all soybean producers in the United States, so they tend to work very well together. When we look at the wine industry, every wine is sort of a unique commodity. It's not like a soybean, which is, one soybean looks like another. Every wine is different, and so it makes it a little bit more challenging to get groups together to sort of promote in general the interest, but I think it's very important. I think as an industry, it's very important that we all get together, because building the U.S. image, building demand overseas for wine in general will have an impact, if not directly on individual wineries, but as a whole will have an impact on the industry and help U.S. wine production. So let's see if I can make this slide work, and maybe start a little bit as about looking at the Hong Kong market and talking about wine specifically. Of course, I think the first question, and hopefully it's been answered by many of the presenters already, is why would you consider exporting? And of course, the simple answer is that it opens new sales and distribution channels and creates greater demand for the product. This is particularly important when, say, on the domestic side, things may not be going so well or demand is a little bit soft. Having those outlets overseas can really help create, and continue strong demand in the product. So maybe I should take a look at the first chart and talk about Hong Kong specifically. As you can see from the chart, if you talked maybe 5 years ago about the Hong Kong market, it was all right, but it certainly wasn't much to look at. It was about 1% of all of U.S. exports. But in just that short period of time, it has made incredible leaps and is now our third largest export market behind Canada and the UK. In 2001, we did about $125 million worth of sales into Hong Kong. And if you can look up there, since 2007, that's almost a 2,000% increase in the number of exports. And so we're really excited about the growth of the Hong Kong market, and really that's why we tell people, if you're looking for a new market, look at Hong Kong. It's maybe not as developed as other markets, and in that sense it adds opportunities because there aren't as set number of players as there are in some of these other more mature markets as we've seen. Just to give a little bit of background on Hong Kong, as for those who may not know, and just a little bit about the demographics, I think it's important to go through. Hong Kong has about 7 million people in an area of about 400 square miles, approximately the size, at least the example I use, of just Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. Is about that size. It has a GDP per capita of about $34,000 U.S., so it's quite a wealthy location. It also is a great place for tourists. In 2011, in this latest year, about 42 million tourists came to Hong Kong. Many of those, the vast majority, coming from mainland China. We'll talk about the importance of mainland China to the Hong Kong market in a little bit. Also in Hong Kong, about 95 to 97% of all food and beverage must come from somewhere else. There is very little, if any, production, food and beverage production here in Hong Kong. And so, in many ways, that's led Hong Kong to do some unique things that we'll talk about as well. When we talk about the broader market, about $10 billion US in retail sales on food and beverage every year, and about $12 billion in restaurant receipts. So there's quite a booming business for a state of about 7 million people. I should also mention, as we go forward, talking about the Hong Kong versus mainland China and how they are connected. Basically, the way that it's described is that Hong Kong is part of China. It's one country, but they follow two separate systems. So it has a separate legal and customs and immigration system, and that leads to significant differences in how to do trade in the market. It also leads us to look at sort of the ease of doing business in Hong Kong. And so with that, I want to explain in this next slide sort of why we've seen this explosive growth in the wine market to Hong Kong. The first and obviously most key thing is the fact that currently there are no duties on wine to Hong Kong. And that changed exactly in the year 2007 when Hong Kong decided to take their duties from a total of 80% in February 2000 to 40%, and then a year later in 2008 from 40% to zero. And you can see sort of the immediate impact of that, particularly on U.S. wine exports, and we'll take a look at what it's done for the rest of the world as well. The reason they did that, if you talk to the Hong Kong government, they'll say it's because they wanted, they had a vision of making Hong Kong a global wine hub. If you want to talk to perhaps a more cynical view, the chief secretary, at the time the #2 in the Hong Kong government, was a wine aficionado, and he had quite a collection of wine carried throughout the world, and maybe he wanted to bring it into Hong Kong himself. But either way, it's done wonders for the Hong Kong market. In addition, there are no permits or licenses needed to import wine into Hong Kong. This is both good and bad in many ways. There are now about 3,000, according to those rough figures, importers in Hong Kong. So it means there's plenty of opportunities, but it also means that it may be a difficult process to go through and select and find that importer that fits your needs. Also, there's no, as far as requirements for importing wine, there's no certificate of origin needed, no health certificate, no major labeling regulations. All of these make it just a very easy and open market to enter into. If you compare that to for example, the mainland China market, China requires, for an example, an original certificate of origin for wine, stamped by a government agency, a health certificate, an analysis, again, certified by a government agency, a copy of a production letter describing the details of making the wine. And this is required for every single label. So you can see on top of that, there's about a 48% duty on wine going into the mainland. It just kind of shows you sort of the differences between the two markets, but also just how easy it is to get into the Hong Kong market. I just want to talk a little bit, the figures I had shown before were value figures, but I think it's also instructive to take a look at volume figures when you look at the volume of wine going into Hong Kong, and we'll get into this a little bit. As you can see, Hong Kong was the #3 market when you took value into consideration, but when you take volume, Hong Kong drops a little bit behind Japan and is close to even the China market. As I said, what was explosive growth is still true, a 538% growth since '07. That's quite beneath what you've seen in terms of value. To be honest, I think that's a very positive thing, as it's shown that as U.S. wine has gotten into the market, Hong Kong has been willing to pay more for the wine that they're importing, and they're taking a look at sort of more higher quality wines, and again, willing to pay for that. So it's quite a good feature that we're seeing. So again, if we just take a look at this larger display of just U.S. volume as we go along, you can see the growth, but the growth is slowing slightly relative to the growth in value. We expect growth overall to maintain sort of a steady growth in volume, but hopefully we'll see more increases in value over time. The reason is, of course, is that as the Hong Kong wine market matures, obviously they're not going to be increasing their consumption greatly, but I still think we'll see increases in consumption, steady increases in growth in consumption. As we go a little bit on now to take a look at sort of the world and how they relate to Hong Kong and where wine is coming in throughout the world. As you'll see, in 2011, this most recent year, Hong Kong imported about $1.2 billion in wine from throughout the world. The vast majority clearly is coming from France, with about $750 million worth of imports. That is a little misleading because much of that is coming on the very, very high-end wines. So when we take a look later at some of the volume levels of French wine coming in, it's not as drastic or severe. You'll also notice there the United Kingdom in second place, and you might be wondering what wines from the UK are they taking in. But this is mostly very high-end auction wines coming from the UK, and also we believe a lot of private collections that people are actually bringing back into Hong Kong that they kept in the UK when tariffs were at 80%. So as we move down the list, you'll see Australia and the United States are roughly equal in the amount of wine that come into Hong Kong, although much of Australia's wine then goes into the China market, whereas a lot of our wine, if you look at the re-export figure under gross imports, you'll see re-exports and retained imports. Retained simply is that the wine that we think stays in the Hong Kong market, and the re-exports go into basically into China, a little bit into the Macau. You'll notice also, and I just want to point out a little bit, there's a discrepancy as we switched over when we talk about the Hong Kong market. These are Hong Kong values, and they differ slightly from the U.S. Export values. So if you see a discrepancy, that's why you'll see that. You'll also notice that the Hong Kong numbers, official numbers, tend to be a little bit lower than the U.S. reason we believe that's true is that there is what we call a gray channel of wine that goes into Hong Kong, that goes from the United States through Hong Kong into China. And so it may not be reported on the Hong Kong statistics because it eventually makes its way to the mainland. And there's no hard figure on that, but we believe about 20% of wine that's destined for Hong Kong may actually end up on the mainland. Another thing to point out as we look at these numbers is that Hong Kong's not just an important market for the United States, but it is an important market for many other wine producers. You don't see it on the list, but Chile, Italy, Spain, Germany are all right behind us in sort of looking at the Hong Kong market as their major market in Asia. And so what that means is that we have intense competition. Although there's great growing demand for wine, everybody is here. And if you look at, we'll take France in particular, the #1 market, at $750 million, you can see that they have an incentive to invest lots of money in marketing and promotion of their wines here in Hong Kong. So while it's a great market for the U.S., I think people need to be aware that it's also a very good market for the rest of the world, and that they are competing as well for a share of that market. Now I wanted to talk a little bit, I mentioned it previously, but if we take a look at a graph of the price of U.S. wine per liter, in this case, you can see the incredible growth here in Hong Kong. And this is a very, what we think, a very good story. If you look at the red line, which is the wine that is staying, the price per liter of wine that's staying in Hong Kong, you can see it's reached over $16 per liter. And of course that will have that's not the retail price, but that's the price that it's been imported at. So the retail price will be even higher average. And if you note, I think it's interesting to note, if you look at I hope it looks like the green line up on the screen, that has remained relatively steady at about $6 per liter. That is what's going into sort of what we consider the mainland markets mostly. And as you can see, so while imports, what's being imported into China has been growing in volume, the price has not been picking up very much. As opposed to Hong Kong, where we've seen a significant uptick in the price of U.S. wine per liter. Again, I think that's a very good indication of sort of the growing interest in U.S. wine and the growing recognition that there are very good quality U.S. wines being produced that relative to others, including French wine, is a bargain at the price. And so they're willing to pay money for this quality wine. Let's move on. If you look at, I think again, just to give you a comparison of what other wine is selling for, if you look at France, for example, about $36, well, actually in 2011, almost $40 per bottle. But this, again, is sort of a little bit, I guess I would say, not quite right, because there's plenty of wine coming in at lower prices, and then you have a lot of the very high-end auction wines that have been coming into Hong Kong, sort of skewing, if you will, the trend line. So there's a very small volume at a very high price, and perhaps this is better illustrated if you look at the United Kingdom, where the average price per liter of wine coming in is $232 US. So obviously it's some of the high-end wine that's coming in. Australia, which is probably a better comparison from the United States, on the other hand, has seen their values rise over time, but they still have sort of, if we look at 2000, 2007, 2008, where Australia had a higher price per liter than the United States, that has shifted dramatically, and now we have about a 50% per liter price advantage over Australia, kind of showing that the U.S. wine is getting a ever greater, I guess, reputation, if you will, and interest from the Hong Kong consumer, particularly as the quality, as they taste the wine, as they view the quality as particularly good. With that, I think I will stop. I think we'll give some time for questions to but I think hopefully, as you've seen, Hong Kong, if you haven't looked, because just a few years ago the market didn't exist, it may be an excellent opportunity for many out there to take a look at the market and explore sort of the possibilities. So I think with that I'll end and throw it back to you.
All right, Eric, thank you for a wonderful overview. I'll go ahead and open it up to the audience, and I will relay their questions. Any questions for Eric? Peter?
What's the feel of the stability of their economy?
What is the feel of the stability of the Hong Kong economy?
Well, obviously, the Hong Kong economy is tied to mainland China's economy. A little bit by what's going on around the world, but I think the prime example is that over the last 10 years, the growth rate, the economic growth rate has been a little bit over 5%. So it is impacted by what happens in the world, obviously, the downturn perhaps in Europe, or a few years ago in the United States did have an impact, but it's muted because they're tied so closely to the mainland. So we're very positive, particularly in the short term, about the Hong Kong economy. But of course, in the global environment, it's hard to predict anything past that. But again, as China goes, Hong Kong will go as well.
Great, thank you. Any other question for Eric? Yes.
What other geographies or countries in Asia Pacific is Eric working or servicing in addition to Hong Kong, and then I guess directly or indirectly Macau and the mainland? Are there other countries, or does he have counterparts in U.S. government entities over there?
The question is essentially, are there other regions, areas, or countries in the Asian market that you deal with specifically and provide this kind of assistance? And, or do you have other counterparts similar to you that can assist in entering in other markets?
Absolutely. Although my area of responsibility is Hong Kong and also Macau, the special administrative regions of China, we have 5 offices in mainland China, and of course offices throughout the region, whether they be based in Kuala Lumpur, Vietnam, again, Malaysia, throughout Asia. So yes, and they work specifically within that region. Like I said, in China, we view China sort of as there are different markets within China. So for example, for wine, many people may have some experience with the Shanghai market, and so we have an office there. But that might be quite different than what we see in Beijing, or particularly out to the west, even into the south in Guangzhou. So we do have offices in all of those locations that sort of can tailor sort of the advice to the region that people are interested in.
Great, thank you, Eric. Any other question from the audience? Yes, sir.
Do you have similar data on the Shanghai market?
The question is, do you have similar data on the Shanghai market?
Yes, we perhaps not as developed. Hong Kong has a very good statistical service and access to numbers, but we do have numbers on the Shanghai market. In fact, I have a report that I can share with everybody that sort of explains in detail the different markets within mainland China. So yes, those numbers are available. I guess maybe not in the detail that we had for Hong Kong, but that will give a good idea of how much is going into the market and what the average prices are, and sort of look at the competition.
Eric, I would be interested if you could email me that report, and those individuals are interested, then we could forward it on to those individuals who want to see that data.
Absolutely. We'll send a number of our different reports for people to take a look at, and of course our contact information for people who may have specific questions or on this or basically anything else related to agriculture.
Great, excellent. Any further? Yes, there's a couple. Paul.
Is there any, on his part or his agency's part, any estimation or anticipation of mainland China dropping their or diminishing their 48% tariff?
Is there any indication or any estimation that the mainland China lowering or dropping their 48% tariff?
Yes.
Duty, excuse me?
Yes, no, we've received none. You know, and that 48% is broken out into sort of different levels. Some of it, you know, it's broken out into the actual, what you call the duty. It also has some VAT, value-added taxes included, and a consumption tax. So that is what an exporter would have to pay on each shipment. And we've seen no indication that they would be willing to lower it. The only case where we've seen where that is not the case is that if there is a sort of a free trade agreement between Hong Kong and China, so if that wine was fermented in Hong Kong, whether it came from grapes from the United States or elsewhere, then it would be allowed to enter into China. We figure at roughly 8% duty is what effective rate is what they pay, but that's the only case that we've seen, and we don't expect those duties to be lowered anytime soon. We do see some additional problems, unfortunately, because you know, it gives incentive. The 48% duty, of course, gives incentive to do some things with invoicing. So companies that have outlets both in China and elsewhere may have an advantage because they can invoice you know, the wine at, say, production cost and thus pay a lower duty than those who may not have an arrangement already in mainland. So there's lots of little issues there, but the main point would be that no, we don't see major changes coming to the wine market in the mainland.
Great, thank you. There's another question in the back. Yes, sir.
Similarly, how stable do we think the 0% tariffs in Hong Kong will be? Is there any likelihood of that being increased?
The question is, what is your take on how stable the Hong Kong market with the current zero duties?
You know, I think the Hong Kong government has been incredibly supportive of the wine industry in general. There is clearly no interest in going back. I think, you know, so from the point of view of having a very open, easy market entry policy, I think we're going to see that for the foreseeable future. Again, I think some of the questions we're looking at is obviously some of these growth rates just aren't sustainable. You can't grow 40–50% per year forever. So the real question is how are we going to see the growth? I think we're already seeing some, I guess, you know, a topping perhaps of this high-end auction wine coming into Hong Kong. The latest auction didn't sell as well as expected, and there was some sort of, you know, publicity out there that the buyers, even though the auction's held in Hong Kong, many of the buyers are from the mainland, had felt that in previous auctions they sort of were taken advantage of, and that there was sort of a bidding war, that prices were, you know, they just didn't realize what the real prices should be. So I think we're already seeing signs to indicate that there's a top in that, and that can have an effect on numbers. But I think what we're really interested in is the growth of sort of that, you know, that bottle of wine that people will have at dinner, that will go out at restaurants, and not sort of the collection wines, and see where the growth goes from there. There's more growth to be had, but at what levels and how fast? I think we're going to start to see it slow down a little bit.
Great. Excellent response. Thank you. Any other further questions for Eric?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So does he actually have some numbers on per capita consumption as far as wine drinkers, not collectibles, but drinking?
The question is, do you have any data on per capita consumption as far as wine drinkers?
Yes, we do, and I can share it. I don't have it right in front of me, but when we've looked at it, I don't want to give a figure that might be off. It's still relatively low, so there is room to grow. And so as we look at it, you know, it's below sort of per capita consumption in the United States, clearly. So we have room to grow, but what we don't know, you know, is sort of how quickly that number will grow, and how much of it, for example, it's counted as consumption, but mainland visitors can take up to 2 bottles of wine back to the mainland with, but if they buy it here in Hong Kong, it counts as consumption here in Hong Kong. So the numbers are a little tricky to get at as far as what overall consumption of people in Hong Kong, what that actual number is. But even as we go through, there's definitely room to grow when you look at, again, those volume numbers, which are much lower than the actual value numbers.
Great, thank you. Any further questions? Yes, sir.
I'd be curious, what is the impact of the growth of gaming in Macau having on the impact of consumption of wine in Macau? Does Macau perhaps represent a better opportunity for future gaming?
Well, thank you, capture that. The question is, I'll paraphrase, the correlation and the growth in gaming in Macau to wine consumption, and do you see, because of the growth in gaming in gaming in Macau, is there going to be a further increase in wine consumption?
It's a very good question, and it's a question we've been looking at. You know, just to give a sort of a backdrop on Macau, and many people don't know that the gaming revenue in Macau over the last couple of years has surpassed all revenue generated, not just in Las Vegas, but Atlantic City, through all of the Indian casinos in the United States. So it's just exploded in the last couple of years. However, I think it is a little bit different, sort of Macau versus what we might imagine in Las Vegas, which has sort of marketed itself as an entertainment capital, where not only are you going for the gaming, but you're going for to go out to, I don't know, maybe have a pack, you know, play golf, a spa, even bring the family. In Macau, it's still almost always for the gaming. And so it's very focused on that. So as we have seen more and more restaurants go in, we have seen the consumption of wine increase, but we've seen, again, I think even more so in Macau, where a lot of that volume increases at the very top end, and the value increases at the top end, and the volume hasn't risen nearly as much. So it is a potential market, but it's still relatively small, as again, the focus is on the gaming. So it's not, the increases aren't quite matching up, I would say, the gaming versus all of the other sort of the restaurant receipts and the wine consumption. Macau is a very small place. Only about 500,000 people live in Macau. However, what you would want is the over 35 million tourists that come in every year.
Great. Excellent, thank you. Any further questions for Eric? One more up here.
Is all of this wine that's on a chart, is that bottled wine, or is there some bulk wine in these?
The question is, in terms of the volume and sales on these charts, is that all bottled wine, or is there bulk?
Well, on the charts, it's combined, but the vast majority is bottled. There is some bulk wine that is coming in, but again, the vast majority would be bottled.
Great, thank you. Anything else? Okay, I think that's it for the questions, Eric. We really appreciate your very informative presentation, and thank you for calling in from Hong Kong. We really appreciate it. And thank you also for your assistance to Nicole and Alki for assisting us in making this happen.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us and giving us the opportunity. And again, we look forward to anyone who has any questions to contact us. And if they're ever in Hong Kong, hopefully they would visit us, and any assistance they need, we would be happy to provide.
Great. Thank you.